Welcome back. Long time, no episode, but been doing some things. Right, you can see I'm here in person with the big dog of comedy himself, Mark Henely. I'm so excited. Welcome back to Comedians Exposed, you guys.
Oh my God, I feel exposed. We're in my house.
I know, it's crazy. We're starting to expose comedians a lot more.
I know there's a camera. I'm wearing basketball shorts and a black T-shirt. I feel like I'm borderline pajamas. You're in like full clothes.
I did have to leave the house,
Yeah.
so I thought maybe I know I'm depressed, but like let me put on clothes. Oh, small wins. So it's been a long time since I recorded an episode.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think I asked Mark to be on a long time ago. And Mark's a very good friend of mine, and I was so excited. He agreed to do it, and he also agreed to help me out by being my first in-person interview.
Yeah, I thought, because you asked me to do it, and then for some reason it didn't happen, and then you started having new episodes of other people, and I'm like, she changed her mind. I know that you were holding to like the full.
Yes, I wanted to wait till, again, we got the equipment.
I know.
I'm leveling up, because, I was doing the podcast. Someone actually...
There's a lot of high-tech equipment that neither one of us understand.
No, it took a long time to get set up. But I'm trying. I remember somebody who listened to the podcast had made a comment, because, the podcast for me is very low tech, and I was just using the audio on the computer, and the person, commented. Yeah. So I actually got microphones as a gift, and I was super happy. And I'm super happy that I'm finally here to sit down and expose Mark Henely, the big dog of comedy. Yes. Yeah. So excited.
I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, so again, Comedians Exposed, the whole premise started out of comedy and vulnerability. Because for me, I find it to be a really uncomfortable thing to do. Even right now doing this podcast in person, I feel super duper uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I think I've been doing it for so long that like something in my brain broke a few years ago, and now I'm like not nervous in front of people. I am sometimes like a family party with people I don't know that much. Like not my family, but like other family parties where I'm supposed to make a good impression.
Yeah.
I feel more like that. But like if I'm just out in the world, I don't care as much. Like I go up on stage, I don't get too much anxiety beforehand unless it's like a really really big show.
Yeah.
So I feel like more and more I get less nervous all the time.
Wow. And I think, what I want to touch really quick, because you said your brain is broken.
Yeah. I think there's a level of shame you should be having with things that I don't have anymore.
Shame. Oh my God, shame. So I'm glad you brought that up, because again, like I was talking with lots of different comics, lots of different things come up with vulnerability. And for a lot of people, this idea of feeling vulnerable is also tied with shame. So you're kind of like, because shame can be so, unnecessary. I think a lot of times, like, their shame is a good thing, but then, especially doing comedy, like, why should we be ashamed, like, and feel shame about just trying to make someone laugh?
Sure. Well, I'm talking also, like, in life, where, like, you go on the subway, you should be ashamed if you don't respect, like, if you, like, have, like, your head, like, music playing out of your phone for everyone to hear, or, like, you're being kind of rude like that, and I feel like over time, not that I do that, but, like, little things, like, in day-to-day thing, I'm kind of like, I don't really care, I'll just dress how I want to dress and go where I want to go, and kind of, I don't have that same level of embarrassment, but some shame is good because people don't start acting up in public or whatever, but the being in front of people, I feel like I don't have as much embarrassment and shame over. It's more like particular bits and jokes that I do where I'll be more nervous.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good, because we're going to get all into that. So I just want to give a little bit of a lowdown with Mark. So Mark Henely, he is the big dog of Comedy Fight Club. Comedy Fight Club. He also was at Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Huge. So we're going to talk about all of those things. Comedy Fight Club is a
roast battle show that I started getting involved with a few years ago. My friend and roommate, Matt Marin, he's the commissioner of Comedy Fight Club, the sleeveless wonder of the world. He runs it. He was part of like doing shows for Roast Masters, which was like a popular roast battle show at one point, and then he started doing his own roast show maybe beforehand. I'm not sure quite the timeline. And then years later, I got involved and I started producing the Jersey ones. And part of the way I got involved was I started doing the roast, and my roast style was a little bit unique. So I think that the roasts I had were like very memorable because I had a kind of more unique style, and then from there I got like just more involved as me and Matt became closer because we're like very similar people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What makes your roast style unique?
My thing is I started doing a thing where I would read a prepared statement about my opponent before the battle.
Mm-hmm.
So before the battle, I would say, listen, first I have something to say, and then I would read a multi-paragraph essay about how they had wronged me. And then all my jokes would reference the statement. So, like, instead of going up there and kind of, you have your first joke and you're like, listen, they look like this, and they're this ethnicity, and I hate them. Like, it would be sort of like, this person owes me $18, and this is why I thought it was wrong he did this. And then kind of, like, go back and then build it back to, like, why it's wrong that he still owes me $18. Like, make a whole story around it and try to, like, almost, like, bury the other person in, like, the pageantry of it all. Yeah.
Have you found that to be like effective for winning roast battles, an effective strategy?
It can be. I was on a very hot winning streak for a while in undercards. The first person to beat me at that strategy was my friend Ben Miller, who's the current Comedy Fight Club champion. He countered with his own prepared statement, and then we had like and his landed better. And I know that because someone in the audience yelled out his was better. And then we like had like a whole back and forth thing where I like had to almost like act my way through the battle. It was very strange. But and recently I started doing one. I did it a couple times. I did it once on our YouTube channel and then once in like a theater in Pennsylvania. And the strategy I did was that I would just tell my opponent that I've fallen in love with their wife and that their wife should be with me and not them. And then all the jokes are just about how beautiful their wife is. And that actually, I've lost twice doing that. That's actually not a winning strategy. I'll get consistent laughs, and they're like, I like the guy that isn't trying to steal someone's wife. That guy seems better.
I feel like with roast battles, too, in general, like, you have to walk a very fine line where you're, making it funny, but not where the audience is feeling like bad for the person you're roasting, like you don't want to get like a response like oh
yeah, you have to know exactly like kind of the audience you're in front of, because some audiences like Comedy Fight Club, I think the audience in New York especially likes just a mean hit, like an unfair dig. They love that. If your setup is an unfair or insulting dig, they like that because it's like fun. There's some energy to it. But other places they don't like it as much.
No.
The number one thing is to try to have coherent jokes, and if you can't do that, I think there's another way around it. But you have to have a big personality.
Yeah.
You can kind of personality your way through it sometimes, but it's harder to do that.
Well, let's talk about your comedy personality. Sure. Who is Mark Henely? A comedian. Yeah, who's picked up?
I try to be very improvisational. I don't usually go up with like a written down set list. I try to go up there with I know the bits I have, and then I kind of work through it as I go up there. I tend to like talk to the audience a lot and try to work with them to figure out like what they want to kind of talk about, and then go work through it with them.
Okay.
So I can be more in the moment and stuff.
So the whole premise, like, right, of this podcast, like I said, it started with vulnerability, and now, like, I've been kind of getting into it, getting more episodes in. I recognize, like I said, I feel like vulnerability is, like, super specific, right, to the individual. And I started thinking, again, about how much more, like, again, comedy is tied to human psychology, you know, our, like, thinking about, you brought up, like, the audience, like, how you spend time talking with the audience, getting to know them. Like, it's almost like, do you feel like you need to make a safe space?
A little bit, just because safe space is like a weirdly loaded word right now.
Yeah.
Where some people are like safe space is the most important thing in comedy, and I don't think that's true. But then there's other people that are like, safe spaces are killing comedy. I don't know if that's true either. So there's like a section of like comedy in Brooklyn that's very based on like you'll get kicked out of mics if you say like the word retarded. Can I say that in here?
Yeah, you can say that word.
Yeah, you get kicked out. So I'll go there, and those audiences are very like, they can be like very supportive and very like good audiences, as long as you don't like overstep that boundary with them. So I kind of like going there and doing that and like having that bit of like a test, but then I don't necessarily want to like move in there with them,
Yeah.
I think in certain rooms like that and maybe like religious rooms or like really clean rooms, you do have to create a safe space. But other times I kind of like, when the audience is a little bit looser, I kind of like pushing the boundaries a little bit and like, doing uncomfortable premises.
Yeah.
So I can try to get like more of like a wild energy going.
I think, I don't know too necessarily, I wasn't necessarily like saying it's a designated safe space. I felt kind of like making the audience feel like in the sense that, oh, we trust you,
Yes.
like we feel comfortable with you. We feel that what you're gonna do, there's a point to it and you're gonna bring us out of it. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna like just leave us in this like emotional
a trusting space.
Yeah.
You need to get their trust. You need to just like show that like you understand what's going on, you
Right.
understand them, and then you can kind of move forward and say whatever you want within it.
Right.
And then there's certain things like in a clean room, if you like curse at all, they get mad at you.
Yeah.
So you break their trust immediately.
Yeah.
But other rooms, as long as you kind of like form trust, you can kind of push them all sorts of directions because they're not gonna like break at a certain push. So that's a bit of it, is like understanding the boundaries of the audience, and I think that's like very intrinsic too.
It's also really hard too because like you brought up the word, the R word, and
Which one?
I know there's so many.
I forget. Can you say it?
I'm not going to say it because I feel really
my
uncomfortable
house.
saying it because, okay, so Clint was was the podcast, and he was talking, one of his jokes, he says the word retarded.
Yeah.
And he kind of relates it to like just his own personal experience growing up, dealing with learning difficulties,
Yeah.
yada yada. But he deconstructed the use of the word, and like him and I are similar ages, so it's like
Sure.
we like, for us, like we kind of talked about how it's like this is just our vernacular.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like the distinction between words and how you are acting outwardly towards people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like certain words just have, again, a cadence or just, like a connotation, and it's not that serious. So it's like, now it's like we're this whole space that's being created of like where it is a safe space room.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, like that for me kind of makes me more anxious and feel more vulnerable about doing comedy because it's like I don't know this space. This is not what I grew up with. So, you're a bit younger.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're kind of like you're at closer to
Well, I went to college in an era where like that was very popular. Like a lot of those, I feel like I learned all of like the woke terminology and even why they think like that. And I think I like respect it, and I think it's not even a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just don't know that it's a realistic way to engage with everybody. Cause like I feel like when I was in college, I learned all this stuff, and they're like, you need to treat people with respect. Don't ever like, assume stereotypes on people, like all this stuff. And then I got into the working world, and people like, especially people with like more blue collar jobs, if you aren't doing stereotype jokes with them, they're kind of like, they don't trust you because you're like, do you think you're better than me? And it's like, no, I don't want to offend. So it's sort of like you almost have to I try to let people tell me how they want to engage with them.
And this for me has become like my kind of like obsession, right? Because thinking about, essentially to me what comedy is, right? Because comedy, you think about, again, humanity. Comedy is used as a way to kind of make us feel safe as humans.
Yes.
You think it's a way to break tension.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, again, if you're having this idea of like shattering the expectation as a way to elicit humor.
Yeah.
What is happening? Like, again, where we're shifting kind of like this, because what I'm trying to figure out is like, that's what I find funny is when people surprise me with these things. Are like, wow, I never would have thought you would say that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that I necessarily, like, again, it's just that expectation that I wasn't getting. And now, like, when you have these spaces that are like, okay, this is safe space, I'm like, what are they surprising me with,
Yeah, I think, I don't know, because I can't really speak for them, like, what they're kind of doing. I think some of it is that, like, the people in those that tend to like the safe space comedy, like let's say you're really religious, because I think it's easier with clean comedy. If you're really religious, like, you're just not going to give up your standing in the community that you're in, because it's a communal event, by laughing at like a joke about like blowjobs or something. You're not going to let that like. You're not going to be like, I'm not going to let that person see me laughing at that, and they'll think I do that. Like, you don't want to let that happen. So I think they want the comfort of being like, I don't want like people seeing me laughing at a thing that's inappropriate.
Yeah.
So but with those audiences, like, you don't really have to push the boundaries that hard, because the fact that you're doing any jokes that are good that like aren't offending them, they're already kind of like, this is a wild time, So same with like the more woke rooms, like if you're not offending them but you're still making them laugh, they're kind of like, this is a wild time. But then if you're in an audience where they're not like, they don't kind of like get their feelings hurt as much, or their boundaries aren't as far, that's when you're in an audience where like you can really kind of just like shove people and kind of like really, you get really crazy with those.
Yeah.
And that's where like, like all the news articles get written where like you're in an audience full of normal people and someone says something a little like crazy, and then it goes to like, eventually gets its way back to the other people that wouldn't understand, and then they're like, what is happening at the shows I'm not at? It's like, well, you don't know because you would never go to them.
Yeah, context,
That's why they didn't say them to you.
So what about yourself? Like, where do you tend to, like, find yourself in terms of your jokes and what you're joking about? Is there topics you find yourself staying away from?
I don't know. Well, my thing, I think, this might be a little different than what you're asking, but I think my way of doing jokes is always, like, as I'm writing it, I write from the stage, so I go on stage with an idea and I kind of talk it out. Mm-hmm. But I always ask the audience, like, a lot of questions, so I have, like, a good baseline beforehand. So if I can, like, get in front of enough audiences, almost do, like, a bunch of informal polling and then kind of build a perspective on what I think people think from talking to different people, that's kind of where I form what I'm going to talk about. And I've had trouble with certain topics where, like, there doesn't seem to be a consensus on them, so it's hard for me to, like, form my own take on it, because I'm like, oh, no one has a take on this yet. Like, there are two topics I've always had trouble writing jokes about, or more recently I've had trouble writing jokes about, is, like, porn and the rapper Drake, for very different reasons. Because I'll go to audiences, I'm like, what do you guys think about Drake? And if everyone clapped and they're like, I like him, I'd be like, okay, then I can kind of work off that. But it's always split. It's always split where someone will be like, oh yeah, I like him, he's a good rapper.
Yeah.
And then there'll be people that are like, I think he's grooming children. And I'm like, what? And then that's a completely different thing. Like, there's
that's my first thought. He was very polarizing. Drake is a very polarizing figure.
What do you think of him?
Not a fan. Sorry, I know he's not that enthusiastic. Like, you know.
Yeah, well, you're like a Prince fan.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
If you can't even Prince to Drake, oh my Lord, this is embarrassing, Mark.
Embarrassing. That was embarrassing for me. They're both. I mean, like, Drake is like as. Like, for what you can be in music now, is probably a similar level of popularity that Prince was. I mean, certainly not. You can't play guitar. You can't, like... you can't do a lot of those things that Prince could do.
I don't feel like he is Prince puts on a... Okay, I saw Prince at Continental Airlines Arena, okay, which 60,000 effing people was...
Sure.
However many they fit in there, I don't know, it's a lot. All the way, the last row, the worst seats ever.
Yeah.
Okay? And that mother effer was singing to me. I could feel it, okay? Him humping the stage in his little heels. I don't
think the people at Drake concerts feel that he's singing to them in the back row?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't picture him having that same level of charisma.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Hot take, right? Hot take.
Yeah, but yeah, because he's also, like, very, like, I feel like he seems like very stiff in general, Drake. Yeah. And doesn't move around a lot. Prince was very flamboyant and dancing, and he had heels on.
That was always my thing with Drake. Like, I feel he's very flat. Like, even his singing, like, meh, meh, meh.
Although that is cool. It is cool to not care about things.
Have you noticed that to every fucking celebrity? Now, what is with their mouths open? Like, that's the look. Okay. That Machine Gun Kelly guy, that the Kardashian rapper boyfriend Travis. Like, close your mouth. What's going on there? I don't know.
Machine Gun Kelly, I think I watched a documentary on him. There's like a documentary on Hulu, and it's just like every single shot of him, he's like this, like with like a cool outfit on, like a hoodie, or he's like
with the mouth open. Do the mouth open.
Like it's hot when he does it, but like anyone else, you'd be like, "What? Sit up! What are you doing? Why are you looking like that?"
Is it hot? No, is that what?
Yeah,
hot?
I think he's tall and he's attractive, so I think he's able to like.
He seems not well. Kelly though, bringing him up. Okay. MGK. We are divided.
Yeah.
He's very lanky, like a string bean, but he has a persona.
Sure, and I also like unlikable musicians.
Who else
been really into Morrissey lately.
Morrissey, I think I grew up with the Smiths.
Yeah.
So it was like more, Morrissey I feel like made the way for like the emo.
Sure, but he's vegan, which people don't like.
Oh yeah.
But he's like annoying vegan. He's not like I do it for health. He's like, I simply think it's wrong to kill an animal, like that type of thing.
Okay, the vegans are very pushy.
Yeah. He's a pushy vegan, and he's also like gotten a little conservative in his older age.
Oh,
yeah, so he's always running. If you like any like news story about Morrissey, he's just running his mouth and being a jerk at all times.
Oh wow.
And I kind of like that.
Okay. I haven't kept up with Morrissey news lately, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the whole point was all these people, like, are they personas, right? Or to what extent? But that's what I wanted about you. Like, to what extent is Mark Henley on stage a persona?
Bad news for you. Santa isn't real. I'm sorry, I'm the one that has to tell you this. Santa isn't real, and if he was, we would have killed him. We'd have killed him. Friedrich Nietzsche said that God is dead and we killed him. You think we wouldn't do the same to Santa Claus? You think we wouldn't take the North Pole for military advantage? We're gonna have to fight Russia one day. You think the North Pole wouldn't help us with that?
I think it's, I don't say anything I don't believe on stage, really, unless it's, like, very clearly fake. Then I guess it's a persona. Well, it depends. So, like, depends what I'm doing. So I almost have, I don't think anyone watches me enough times to necessarily know this stuff, but, like, outside of, like, close friends I have, but, like, if I'm standing on stage with a microphone, generally I'm saying, what I believe, and then I'll do a thing sometimes where I'll sit down on the stool and do, like, a very angry character, where I'll just start screaming about things, and all that stuff is just nonsense. Nothing I believe, and so I'll like, I think that having a sit down versus the standing up thing, that to me is, like, the difference of, like, of persona versus what I think of as the regular me.
How much of a split do you get on your stage time? Like, is it 50-50 where you're
No. I very rarely just, like, lapse into, like, the sitting down yelling on the stool thing. I did a couple Christmas specials.
Yeah.
And I have both of those have, like, segments where I'm, like, yelling about the truth or whatever, the truth about Christmas. And then I have the rest of it, I kind of, like, am, like, standing up, mostly just, like, doing bits the way I would normally as a person.
Yeah.
So I think, like, depending on what I'm doing, I kind of like lapsing into a persona, but mostly I try to be as genuine as possible, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that that's where you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I feel very comfortable on stage, I think.
Yeah.
Very relaxed up there.
Do you ever have times when you get off stage where you feel uncomfortable and you, like, analyze the shit out of what you said? And you're like, oh my God, I don't want that ever to be seen in the light of day.
It's sort of rare because, so, like, every week I open up Comedy Fight Club and I go up there with, like, unwritten material and I just hype up the show. I hype up the show and I say what I feel about each battle happening, and I try to get people excited about that. And, like, most of the time it goes really well. But sometimes I get, like, nothing. And those still go up. And then sometimes I do really, really great and I crush the whole time and those go up too. And not much changes in life.
Yeah.
So it's, I sort of, like, don't put as much stress on performance to performance because I think it's very rare that you're in the Eminem 8 Mile moment where you're like, I've got one shot, I've got to fucking put everything behind this performance. Mostly I feel like you're just kind of like, you get an opportunity and then you try to do as well as you can with it. And then hopefully that same opportunity happens over and over again until you can actually do something with it.
Yeah.
You know, like there's one time back in the day where the Creek in the Cave was like a popular venue in New York before it closed, before it moved to Austin. And they were looking for more like comedians for their house shows. And they had something called the Creek Purge, where they had open sign-ups to audition for like the house shows. And 80 comics show up.
Oh.
And they bumped down what was going to be like a few minutes to like everyone gets 2 minutes. And it went on for like literal hours. It went on hours and hours and hours. And I like finally get my like 2 minutes to go up. And I'm like maybe within the last 20 people to go up. And I do a whole thing where I do an opening joke about how my dad's gay, and then it goes good, and then I'm like, you guys have gay dads, and they kind of don't say anything, and I'm like, you think you're better than me? Fuck this. And then I like take my shirt off. I had a Hawaiian shirt on, and I take it off. And this is when I was like heavier, so I'm like real fat, no shirt on. I like put on a black t-shirt, and I sit on the stool, and I'm like, I'm in a black t-shirt, I'm on the stool, I'm gonna get real with you guys. And then I just started doing like this sort of ironic, I don't believe in it, like dumb guy yelling stand-up character I do.
Yeah.
And like immediately, like the next day, I got like a friend request from the owner, and I'm like, I fucking did it. I crushed the thing as hard as I could, and then I got one spot off of it, and that was it.
Oh.
So it's one of those ones where like you can like put all your focus into like getting something to go. You do have the performance is as good as you need it to be.
Yeah.
And then it still doesn't lead to the opportunity you'd like it to, because the big thing is like you have to be there like enough times. Like the way I got involved in Fight Club was like I had some battles, and like some of them went really, really well, but it wasn't until like Matt and I became like genuine friends, and then he needed the pandemic happened. They started having to like do the show on the road, and I was offering to help book the Jersey ones, mostly because like I love the comedy in Jersey. Like, I love the comics. I think we're like underrated, but also really stupid. We're a little bit of both. It's a good, healthy mix of people who are underrated and people who are unhinged lunatics, and I love both of them. And I had you on the very first one we did, right?
On the first Fight Club?
Yeah, were you in the backyard one?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so
that was. You're one of those too. You decide. So we had all of those, and I like doing that, and I guess like that went well, so we kept doing more. So eventually, like I think after like that night, they like asked me to like be a regular on the show, and then I kept booking more and stuff. So
much. It is fun. My favorite was the Halloween one when I.
That was
such a weird night, but it was so much fun.
That might be online somewhere. That was a good one. Yeah, we had you. We do like these like Halloween ones where people like going in character, and those are my favorites. Because they're more creative. You can do more really strange stuff.
Very strange.
And you were Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Yeah.
Versus
Fred Durst.
Fred Durst, yeah.
It was a
I think I suggested
crowd.
you at it because like I don't know, because like, I thought you'd be fun at it, and like you're like dancing the whole time, and like the guy doing Fred Durst was like really into it, like so both of you guys were really into it, and there was a point where I think a crown dropped on the ground. Yeah. And you pretended to lick it after it went in the puddle, and no one but me, because I was thinking at a certain angle, I could see that you didn't actually lick the puddle thing, but no one else could see it, so everyone else was just like horrified that, because also this was like this is during the sort of during the pandemic, so we're like outside in Brooklyn. In garbage.
Yeah, literally. Like.
Yeah, we was just like filming a pile of garbage. It was outside of a brewery, and it was on like this brewery had
like industrial street kind of.
It was industrial street in Brooklyn. This brewery had like a pallet in front of their place, and they said this is where the comedy show is, and people would watch them. So we had a full crowd watching
so fun.
A roast battle show on a pallet in amidst trash in front of a brewery, and then your crown fell in the liquid, and you pretended to lick it, and everyone's like, no, she licked trash liquid. She licked hot garbage liquid.
More lunatic
that night.
Most nights.
Other nights, you were definitely the normal.
It's so fun though.
Yeah.
But I think. Do you think though comics are lunatics compared to the general population? Is there something psychologically? Because that's where we're going to go next. Is we're going into the psychology of.
It's hard to say. I mean, it all depends on who we're talking about. Because I think like to get from mic to mic, you have to have a degree of like coherence about you. I think it does attract a lot of crazy people, and then there's some people I think that start doing comedy that like never quite get good, but like they're nuts, and this is where all their friends are now, so they kind of just keep doing it over and over again, and like I have some affinity for those people. So I think that some real crazy people get involved in comedy, but I don't think everyone's like real crazy.
Yeah.
Do
you think it's more like compared to the general population? Like, do you think comics compared to the general population are?
It's hard to say, because like they'll be the craziest people I've seen are not comics. Like the guy on the subway with like a loose bucket of wood screaming like Bible verses is like not a comic.
Yeah,
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy with his
the
wood.
Craziest. There's only a couple comics that I've met, or people that did comedy that have committed serious crimes. That I think are so.
Wow.
2 out of however many people I know, I think are not necessarily.
I feel like sometimes too. I think comics were not necessarily more unstable. I think we're just more honest about the struggles.
Yeah.
I feel like, or people are trying to make jokes more about their experiences.
Sure.
Right? Because I feel like people essentially, like, you hear all kinds of things at mics.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's real or not, it's what's being talked about. So it's like, is this what everybody's kind of going through at some point in their life? Because I feel like that's what a lot of times makes you funny, is when someone in the audience can relate to you. Yeah.
Or our delusions, it might be the vulnerability of having our delusions more put in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Where like everyone doing an open mic at comedy is like, they're like, I think I'm going to be successful at this. I think everyone thinks that. And then, maybe if you interviewed someone that like worked at whatever job they're working at, like you go to like Wendy's and you interviewed everyone there, and like you're like, which one of you is going to be the manager? All of them are like me. And then it's like, that guy would never be the manager. He doesn't even know how to. He burns the fries constantly.
Oh.
So who knows? Maybe there's like we're just not.
His dreams.
We might just not be paying enough attention to what everyone's doing at work.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you work.
I have a job.
You have a job, which we will not discuss, I imagine.
No.
So, how many people there that if you really asked them if like, are you good at this and will you do bigger things with this, would give you a not delusional answer?
I would. Maybe they would think that they're good at getting promoted, but this is also like. I think it's tied to ability, right? Because everyone has different abilities.
Yeah.
Just like in comedy, like some people are just funnier than others. But like you said, everybody thinks of like to be successful, but then also that whole version of what's successful look like. Like you talked about, there's two different people who like people who aren't good but found the comedy scene for like their friends, and then people who are like.
Yeah. Well, there's some people like in New York, everyone's trying to be successful because it's like a big,
It's New York, right?
It's New York, but like. There's some people that live more in like the Jersey Shore scene that I think don't have any belief that that's the next thing. Yeah. There's certain people who I think are like, I'm gonna live in the Jersey Shore for my life. This is where my family is, and I'm gonna do comedy like in my spare time, and it'll be fun. Yeah. And I think that is like a very healthy and fun way to do it, and potentially even more healthy and fun than the I'm gonna be successful thing. Because if you're doing the I'm gonna be successful thing, you get to do it more potentially, but also like if it doesn't work out. Like, there's no support system underneath you.
And what is the success? Because, like, I feel like, again, you kind of talked about this, like, again, about being just, like, how even your jokes, like, a lot of times you're just there in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's like that unto itself could be, like, that could be just your success. Like, where, or is there, like, a definitively hard, bright line of, like, success is when I've done this venue or when I've made X amount of dollars or... told however many hours of jokes,
I guess to me it would be like if you're making all of your money from stand-up comedy. Or like the majority of your money is like through stand-up comedy and you're not like eating out of the garbage. You know what I mean? If you have enough to like afford rent and food off of doing stand-up comedy, I think that to me is it. But I guess it doesn't have to be that way for everybody. Some people might just want to like do comedy locally, perform, maybe get a couple like good YouTube videos up or be on a couple shows and, kind of like, that's it, There's nothing wrong with that either.
So what about, though, for you? What is your whole, because again, this is a lot of time. It's, a lot of energy. So what's your, like, I guess, definition of success in comedy?
I guess to me it would be full-time professional comedy and then to have like a creatively vital release, something that I came out with that was like well received in like a more artsy way. I don't like saying that, but like more artsy way. Something that like that people could say like that I could release and is just like, oh, this is a very good thing,
Like a project, like almost
like a project.
Like how because Mark did do like the Christmas videos, so something like a culmination, like something kind of like that.
Yeah. Like if the Christmas videos had more views, then I'd be like, that's it.
Oh, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, it has to be like a wide received thing, like a thing that I think is very good that like a lot of people.
That other also people would find.
Yeah. So that
right.
would be kind of like the goal for me. Yeah.
But, like, again, you're working at it. And, like, especially, too, I feel like that's, like, a big part is, like, again, putting out content. Like, even with the podcast, like, I took a break from a while. You know what I mean? Because it's, like, just doing content. Like, just putting it out. Keep trying. Even now, like, I know today we had quite a few technical difficulties. But, again, it's just, I feel like about the process of keep trial and error to get to eventually you're going to get to a point where, like, you're like, this is exactly what I want. Like, it in your head. And it's just kind of like, okay, executing it. Yeah. Sometimes takes some time. Yeah. So, like psychology, I want to get a little bit. What's your opinion? Psychology, thumbs up or thumbs down?
It's not real. No, I think it's fine.
No, I don't know what a lot of. That's what I wanted to know.
No, I think there's a lot of psychology. I think it's. I don't know. It's too broad of a question.
Do you think it's a real science?
I don't know about science. I don't know what science is.
We have a flat earther here.
No, I believe all the science, but like if you were like, well, why is it? I'd be like, I don't know. It's just, smart guy said it was round, so I believe that. And the dumb guys think it's flat, so I'm not going to be a dumb guy. I'm going to be a dumb idiot like these people that watch a documentary and think it's that when everyone else thinks it's the other thing. There's
so much information available, though, to become a dumb idiot.
Yeah.
It's like just so easy. So easy. But, especially, too, like, I like to do this podcast. Like I said, for me, it helps me understand more. Like, I feel like I pick up tips from comics. I enjoy it. But then I think about, too, like, this whole idea, like, what's driving you to do it? And so what's driving you to do this? Why?
I think I'm addicted to just being on stage in front of people at this point.
Yeah?
I've done it so much that if I'm not in front of people, I get, like... you're saying, like, you get nervous doing it. I think it's almost the opposite, where I get more anxious not doing it.
Oh, okay.
Where, like, if I'm not on stage for a while, like, I've been seeing this girl, and she says she can tell if I haven't been on stage in a while. Like, I guess I have, like, a different, like, energy about me.
A different energy. Oh my gosh.
So,
how long have you been doing it for then? So when was your first time on stage?
Like, the first time I was on stage was a very long time ago, because I tried it a little bit in college.
Yeah.
And I would do, like, maybe, like, once every couple weeks, or, like, once every, like, month or so.
Yeah.
And then, I, like, did that for a few months, and that was, like, maybe back in, like, 2011.
Yeah.
And then I bombed one night, and then I just, like, didn't do it again for years. And, like, at one point I tried to, like, pick it up again, it didn't take, so it's probably been, like, 8 or 9 years where I've been, like, consistent and, like, no real stops going forward with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bomb. But now it seems like the bomb is something probably for you. Yeah, you're just like, because you just want to be on stage.
Every once in a while there'll be a stiff bomb, and I'll just be like, and then that's it. There's not much to go on past that.
No, you don't perseverate on your bombs.
No, because I don't think your bombs are you necessarily.
What
also,
are they?
not your sometimes your kills aren't you either. Sometimes, who are you?
Who are you? Are we going to get to philosophy instead of psychology? Who are you, Mark Henely?
Big dog. No.
I don't know. I mean, it's just because essentially your humor is who you are.
Yeah.
Like our humor is so much the essence of our identity. So it's like sometimes I feel like if like people are rejecting my humor, they're rejecting me. But you're saying like the bombs are not always you, the kills are also not always you. So what is it then?
I don't know. I think I don't necessarily always see the rejecting you thing, just because like sometimes I think it's very weird that the stand-up comedy even happens. Because, like, I'll be in, like, a bar or some venue where, like, everyone there is, like, very cool.
Okay.
As I perceive them. They're all very cool. They're all a bunch of Machine Gun Kellys. Sometimes we'll perform at this, like, a venue, and there are these weird venues in Jersey, and this sounds like it's made up, but there'll be, like, a underground bar, but for weed. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where it'll be, like, an underground, it'll be, like, a bar, but, like, it's clearly illegal. It's, like, a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, like, everyone's just smoking weed the whole time. And everyone there has, like, great sneakers, and they're cool, and they're, like, multiple races. Like, they're all sick. They're all great.
Oh, wow. I've never been to any... I'm not even cool enough to know where these places are.
And then it's so weird to me that, like, at some point... And they're all talking, having a good time. And then at some point, everyone just stops, and then they have all the comics go up who, like... If we weren't labeled comics, we wouldn't be allowed to sit at the table. You know what I mean? So to me, on some level, like, I'm not like, oh, like, they would like me. But to me, it's almost like more unlikely that they would invite me to the table. That, like, because of stand-up, I almost have, like, the leg up to be part of the thing that I wouldn't be part of anyway. You know?
What makes you the cool guy?
Yeah, or it'll...
That makes sense why Pete Davidson is so good friends with Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's still why, like, I don't necessarily even think I'm the cool guy after all that. I think I'm still the weird guy with multiple, all these things are on multiple Stephen King books. And like all weird ones too. They're like The Regulators and Dark Tower 6. So I'm already the weird guy that, like, if I went up to you at the party and was like, hey, my dad is gay, they'd be like, get the fuck away from me. But for some reason, because it's called stand-up comedy and, like, there's a tradition there and we're trusted to, like, be interesting the whole time, they're willing to let us have the floor for an extended period of time when they could just talk to each other and probably have a good time.
Yes.
So I think that is, like, it's almost unlikely, I think, that we are the thing.
You said trust.
What do you mean?
You used the word trust.
I did not. I would. Play the tape back. No, what did I say?
We will go to the videotape. But trust that they're trusting you enough. The audience is trusting you. So what builds trust?
Well, they're trusting the brand of stand-up comedy. They're not even trusting me. They're hearing
the idea.
They're hearing that stand-up comedy is happening.
Yeah.
And so I've been labeled stand-up comedy. So I'm almost like, being able to take control of the room because they've seen like Gabriel Iglesias or somebody on TV, and then
my dad, for his birthday, we took him.
Oh, it was awesome.
At Newark. At that big Penn Stadium. What is it? Penn Station?
He's wildly
Not Penn Station.
Yeah.
Prudential Center.
Yeah, he's wildly popular.
He is wildly popular.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday night, and that show was packed. I was like, oh my Lord.
But I wanted to use a more mainstream example than, like, maybe someone else would have said, like, Richard Pryor or somebody. I wanted, like, a more, like, you know, someone that maybe, like, more people would have seen. But, yeah, that's the, yeah, we're right. And I guess ultimately you want to be, like, the person that can, like, contribute to that. Yeah. You want to ride off the idea of, like, there's a stand-up comedian coming up till eventually they're like, oh, you know, Mark is at the thing the same way you'd be like, oh, Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias is at the thing. This is the thing. Or like, oh, this guy's doing stand-up comedy like Mark does, or like the Big Dog does, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, like, that's what you want to do. But, like, yeah, the allure of comedy show puts you in a lot of, like, rooms and in front of a lot of people that you would never get in front of in general.
Yeah.
And so I don't, that's why I guess, like, I think I want to amend my thing. I do think the kills are you, because I think we should take the credit when we can get it, but I don't necessarily think the bombs are you, and I don't necessarily think that the interest you always get from doing stand-up comedy.
Like, again, how sometimes people will take you for what your joke is. Like, they connect to that joke.
Yeah.
And it's like, I worry about that, because sometimes I'll have people, right, who will like my stuff.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't think you're my target audience.
Yeah. I get that a lot with Comedy Fight Club. Comedy Fight Club is a very offensive show. It's very reckless. It says, people say all sorts of offensive things that, like, theoretically get you canceled or fired or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that the missing component is, like, with all the cancellations and stuff like that, there's always a person that wants it to happen. There's always a person with an axe to grind against you that's like, all right, I've saved up this clip and I'm going to deploy it when they get successful. You know, what happened to Shane Gillis? People do that. Like, that's the kind of thing is, like, once you get the next thing, someone will have an issue and they'll try to, like, campaign against you. So that's the thing you have no control over. But, like, I know Matt, the guy that runs Comedy Fight Club, is, like, very wary of, like, obtaining certain fans, I guess, that might, like, turn against you down the line.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if that ever happened to me, I'd just sort of be like, I mean, that's what happened, you know? I gave it my shot.
Well, I think that's also part of being willing to stick yourself in, like, the, you know, essentially, like, the public eye. Like, you're willing to say, okay, you want to be on stage. People are going to look at you. So once you're putting yourself in that position, people are going to look. And there's something very, I feel like, comforting to humanity to be like part of this mob rule. Yeah. Like when someone's getting canceled, it's like, oh, everybody is kind of in that sense of this is our community now and we all hate you, you know?
Yeah, people
it's like that woke mob kind of mentality.
We all like being mad at somebody, even if you're the other side of it. You still want to like be like, this person's stupid. Look at them doing a stupid thing. Right. We all love to hate on a thing, but like that's why I don't know. I think you just gotta like do what you think is right on stage. Don't cross like boundaries that you don't think you should be crossed. Right. And like when you're in a room, try to respect the boundaries of that room itself, because you'll do better if you do. And when you can let loose, just fucking let loose and take some swings. Right. And get weird.
Get weird. I like that. That's where I said, I'm trying to push towards more weird. Yeah. I like the idea of living in lunacy. Sure. And people be like, oh, this lady's unhinged. Because this why not? Yeah. You know?
And you're a big old liberal feminist, and you're already annoyed with all this
feminism. Yeah.
You're always like, women can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. You know it. You know my
You do yoga and have a dog. I guess conservatives have dogs, too.
They do, too. Yeah, they have dogs for hunting.
Everyone has dogs.
Everybody has. And why can't
including the big dog.
The big dog, the best dog. We're so happy that you can be a guest on Comedians. Do me a favor.
Yes.
Tell everybody where they can find your on social media and also your Christmas
I'm
videos.
At Mark Henely on Instagram. Henely is the last name. And then I'm on Comedy Fight Club. I think Comedy Fight NYC is the YouTube channel. Yeah. I'm on that every single week. And then if you search my name in there, I've got like a ton of battles in there. They're all real wild. And then Snack Attack Comedy is the YouTube channel where I post the Christmas videos. We posted a bunch of rap ciphers where we filmed stand-up comedy as if they were like rap videos. And then also some like snack content. I was performing with my friend Ben Miller. He's the other part of that duo. So that's where to find me. If you can give out the Christmas, give the Christmas videos to watch. I'd appreciate that. I think it's a good representation of what I do in comedy. The second one is very wild, and that was all like mostly improvised comedy.
Yeah.
Like it was bits, but like it wasn't improvised in the sense of, like I had all the bits kind of done, but like I had Christmas gifts that were there, and people would come up, and I would give them a drink, and then they would take a gift, and they would present me with the gift, and the gift would be like the next part of the set. So it was almost like letting the audience organize a set list.
Oh, fun. That's cool.
And then some of the things in there are like not necessarily bits, they're like sort of crowd games as well. So that's in there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to post the links below. I'm going to have them so there. Below, yeah. No, not thumbs down. They're going to be great. But they're find them below. And we're so happy, Mark. I'm so stoked that
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm totally happy, and it was so fun. It was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Audience, and we are very happy that we had today on Comedians Exposed the big dog, Comedy Fight Club, Mark Henely. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you for having me.